Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, aka the Bod Father, with my lovely co-host,
Krystal.
As always, we're bringing you guys awesome interviews, and today it is an honor and privilege to have the vocalist and guitarist of TOROUS on the show, Mr. Marc Malone, all the way over from Birmingham, England. So this is awesome to have somebody overseas on our show and to get their music out a little bit more, because TOROUS has a debut album. It's out right now entitled Mindfield. And I'm going to tell you right now, folks, this is an awesome, awesome album from these guys. There's not a bad song on it from top to bottom. There's music all over the place, and it's really diverse, and it's good. And it's on Holier Than Thou Records. So, Mark, how's it going, my man?
I'm good, man. Thanks so much for having us on. Really appreciate it.
Let's dive right into this. What's impressed you the most about making the debut album Mindfield? What's caught your eye about it, if anything?
I think the idea that of creating something that's not the norm, you know, there's something about this record, and since we started the band, we've always tried to push what we do as far as we can and not say, oh, okay, we want to be a Metallica 2.0, we want to be a Alter Bridge. You know, it's the idea of, okay, so we're TOROUS, we're these three guys, we do this music. People may love or hate it, but we need to do what we want to do because we love it. And it's about expression, you know, something more than that. So I think that's the thing I'm most proud of, that people seem to be receiving that really well, that it's not the norm, and yet people have still been buying it, streaming it really well. It's like, you know, we're on about 15,000 streams on Spotify at the moment or something like that with it, and it's really, really cool, and it's a very fast momentum that's building up, and it's cool, man. It's good to see that people want something new, and I hope that we're the guys that can give it to them.
Yeah, this album reminds me of like Night Demon's new album, Darkness Remains. These two albums, like you guys have out, your debut, Mindfield, and then plus Night Demon, these two albums stick out way better than a lot. And I guess it's just because it's kind of like the old school way of metal, if that makes sense. It's got that, you got your riffs, your great guitar solos, the drop downs and everything. It fits music right now the way it should be.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I noticed with classic metal, I sort of grew up on Metallica and Tool and that kind of thing. And one of the things that I recognized with those kinds of things is they never sort of said, right, let's do 2 minutes 30 to make sure it gets onto radio. You know, let's make a small track. Let's make it sound like Nickelback, or let's make it sound like, you know, whatever, right? And I think, you know, those bands are great at what they do, but it's just not what we do. The idea is for us is to dig into the deeper recesses of how we feel and to express that as best as we can. And I think there's no better expression of that than the polarity of doing something really heavy and doing something really melodic and really kind of atmospheric all in one song. You know, if you can capture that whole emotion in one song, then I think you're on something. And that's what we try to do, I guess.
And another cool part, folks, is, I can't stress this enough, guitar solos. Not a 10, 15-minute guitar solo. It's exact amount of a guitar solo that it needs to be.
Yeah, I think it's got to work for the song, man, you know. So there are obviously going to be songs that don't have guitar solos because you've got to just sort of base that on the music, you know. As the singer and obviously the songwriter, sometimes I don't feel it's necessary. But sometimes it just needs that. It needs a melody that the vocal can't do. You know, it needs that kind of emotion, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, Krystal does 20-minute guitar solos on the show sometimes, and
that's good. Sometimes there's a time for that.
She gets wild.
There's definitely a time for that, you know. There's and that's for sure. Fuck, I wish I could do. Can I swear? Shit,
yeah,
I just
go
swear
ahead.
already. Twice. There we go. Yeah, so fucking I think there's definitely a time for that. I think it's all about the moment, isn't it? It's about picking the right moment for it.
Who was it that produced this album?
So this is an old friend of ours called Johnny, who runs a small studio here in Birmingham called Flat Out Studios. And he worked with us since we started the band about 3 years ago. So he's a good friend of ours, and he did a phenomenal job on it. You know, he really did. And we worked pretty hard on it. And he's just one of those guys that's sort of like a fourth member of the band. We've actually only got 3 members in the band. He's like sort of like the fourth member in the band. Yeah, and he's very, very good at what he does. He just seems to know. He's like a mad scientist, man. You know, he just knows how things work.
Does he push you guys to your limits, you know, to get a great response from you guys on the albums?
Yeah, I think one of the things that he does is he is willing to put aside any financial gain to gain the best from the product. And that's quite a unique thing in this kind of time that we're in, you know, because we're all struggling in this industry. It's fucking, you know, it's a very difficult time to be in music. It's a great time because there's never been as many ways to share music. But one of the difficulties is it's a difficult way to sort of make income. So a lot of the producers that you'd work with kind of want to, you know, get like their £20 or £30 an hour or dollars or whatever. And he's the kind of guy that worked with us and said, you know what, if it takes a couple hours extra, then let's just do it. Let's just make sure we get it right. And that was huge for us because we got it right.
Being a three-piece, is that more smoother than, say, having four or five guys in the band? Or how long have you guys been a three-piece? It has always been a three-piece or more.
Yeah, we've always been a three-piece. So we started the band in April 2014. So we've been around for just over 3 years. We've always been a three-piece, and it was just by accident, really. We were jamming in different projects. We got together. We decided to form this band just over 3 years ago. And yeah, it's always been that way. I could play solos. I could sing, sort of. And I could write lyrics and I could write songs. And these guys were really fucking good at bass and really good at drums. So it didn't really make sense to bring anybody else in because we can pull everything off on the record that we can live. So to us, it just made sense to keep the core and go with that and to make sure that we're pushing ourselves as far as we can go. I feel like if we brought somebody else in, we'd probably not push ourselves as much as we do. I think because we're a three-piece, it makes us really push the boundaries a lot.
Any songs off the Mindfield album that stand out more to you than any on it possibly, man?
I really love the song 9 for personal reasons because it was written about a particular period in my childhood when I was sort of going through a transition of, you know, personal things, which probably wouldn't be best to get into, but I'd say that's probably my favorite track. But I really love Shadow Self, Playing Human, and the instrumental 7 as well.
How much growth musically do you feel like Taurous has gone through since you guys originally formed?
I think one of the biggest growths you see is through live. I think you trust a lot more as well. So, you know, when you're starting a band, everybody's sort of trying, like a bit like a dog for a bone, you know, you're sort of going for the control a little bit. He's like, I want my idea to be right. I want my idea to be right. And I think you learn along the way, if you're really passionate about what you do, to trust the guys in your band. And hopefully they trust me, and I'm sure they do. So I think you just learn to trust people and go, okay, so let's do what's best for the song. So I think the biggest growth that I can see and why this album has really worked is that we all trusted each other to know what was best for the song and not what was best for the ego. And I think that's really, really important.
How much? And obviously you guys are signed to a record deal, but how much local support does Taurous get via fans, venues, and radio play?
Well, we do pretty well. I mean, you always want to hesitate from saying that because you can never really stop doing well. You can only do better, right?
Right, yeah.
I think for where we're at in the terms of the fact that we've only been around for a few years, we do pretty well. We just played the O2 Academy, which is a fairly big venue in Birmingham, one of the smaller rooms. But, you know, we do pretty well. So we did about 50 shows last year in the UK. We did about 5 tours. So we do pretty well, but it's a grinding thing because at the level that we're at, it's sort of, you know, you can do really well in one city where people know who you are. You can go to another city and you could be playing to sort of 20 people. So the idea is you've got to somehow find a medium for everybody to be aware of you, right? And I think that's the hard part. But yeah, we're very, very grateful for the cities that we pull in, you know, more than hundreds of people. And we've played some big festivals and stuff like that. So we're very grateful for all that support. It means a lot to us.
What's your typical writing process, and how do you keep yourself from staying too contained in what you're writing?
I guess there's no real typical writing process. I think one of the main things that I try to do is when I write a song, I'm just trying to make sense of the world. I'm just trying to make sense of life. You know, we live in such a fucking crazy place. This world is mad and our lives are mad, and we've all got these baggages that we carry around from our personal lives. So I guess what my writing process is, when anything comes into my mind that's inner or outer, I write it down, whether it's an idea for a lyric, whether it's a song title, whether it's a whole song, I write it down. And then we tend to get together as a band and we try to see how that feels musically. In some cases, it can be the other way around. We can write some really cool music and then I'll go away and I'll pull some lyrics out of it. But generally, there's an idea, there's a feeling, and then that feeling will pull out the rest of the song. You know, so there's no particular way. It's just whatever comes first, the lyric or the music.
What can fans expect at a show from the Mighty TOROUS? What are they going to get when they come to see you guys live?
Energy. One of the things that they're going to get when they see TOROUS, which I guess I feel like a lot of bands may not be doing. There are definitely some bands that do it, and they're fucking awesome as well. But I think one of the great things that we do is we put everything out there. You know, we really do play every show like it could be our last show. And I know a lot of people say that, but I don't necessarily feel like they mean it. But I think the reason that we've been picking up a lot of pace at an early stage is because we really mean that, you know, because you never know what's going to happen, and it really could be your last show. So we try to make sure that we give people a show that they deserve, because whether there's 5 people, whether there's 500 people, they deserve that. They've come down, they've given time out their day, they've paid money, they've come to see you, and they deserve your best. Even if it's one person, they deserve your best. So we give that to them every time.
I want to hop back to the support you guys get, and you was talking about festivals and stuff. I just wanted to ask this question because it's always cool to talk to bands from overseas, because the reason why I say that, folks, is when you watch a concert or a festival overseas, the fans are so into it, and they are singing every song lyric for lyric, and it's insane compared over here to the U.S., and I'm not knocking U.S. folks. I'm not knocking us at all. But have you played over here in the U.S.? And if so, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, like, what's the better support, I should say?
Right. Well, I think there's, I guess that depends largely on the band, right? To answer your first question, I mean, it differs here. Like in England, England is very different to Europe in that respect. I know you know, we're technically part of Europe and stuff, but culturally it's very different. So in many ways, we're probably more similar to America in the respect that people are quite cynical about and have very high standards about the music, which is actually a very good thing. I think that's why so many good artists have come out of England and America. I think the downside of that compared to countries in Europe is that they have sort of a better ground support than we do in England, and I'm sure, well, I don't know in America, but I'm sure it's probably similarly. So to answer your second question, no, we haven't played in America yet, but we can't wait to. We are speaking to some people to try to sort that out over the next year or so, and we are very anxious to do that because, you know, as much as we love bands, British bands, and we grew up on Judas Priest and Sabbath and Pink Floyd and everything else, we also love Metallica and Tool and everything. So, we really want to get over to play and just experience that. And I guess to, sort of answer the third part of it, I don't think there's any set response. I think all you can ever do is do the best you can do. I think if you're a band that goes out and performs to your absolute maximum ability every night, you'll always get something from that. I think you can never go out half-hearted, because if you do that, that's when you sort of don't see much of a return from it,
Yeah.
What's your take on the digital era that we're in as far as like recording music, distributing music, streaming services, all that?
It's difficult, isn't it? It's a very difficult time that we're in. I mean, I got into music obviously after the digital age in terms of performing, but I do remember buying tapes. You remember tapes?
Oh yeah, I do.
I remember. I've got Metallica Load and Reload, and I've got some Pink Floyd tapes, and I've got some really cool tapes from when I was young. And so I remember copying tapes and selling tapes for like 50p, which is about 50 cents or something like that.
Yeah.
So I remember selling tapes in school and things like that, making copies and selling them to people. And now you can stream the biggest artists in the world online. So it's a mental kind of scenario that we're in right now. But I think one of the great things about it is that music is more accessible than ever, and I think that's really cool, because if you're in Japan, or if you're in England, or if you're in America, or if you're in Australia or whatever, you can stream this music, and that's great, because the more ways we can get music out to people, the better. I think the downside is, of course, if you're starting out like we are, if you bought a CD, it'd be £10, or $12 or whatever. But if you streamed it, you'd have to stream it probably about 500 times, maybe 1,500 times just to get that. So I think it makes the financial life difficult in the band, because then you sort of become a band that does it as a hobby rather than does it as a career. And if we do that, then we can't put as much time into it to create better art. So it's a bit of a weird situation. But I think it's great for the consumer. Probably just needs a little bit more work to help the artist.
Krystal, how many cassette tapes do you still have?
I have Offspring Smash, and I have Purple Rain.
Oh,
It's a good one.
Poison's greatest hits.
I've got
I found a Dokken one as well.
nice.
A random Dokken one, like
Yeah.
from the 80s. That was
Yeah.
cool.
I've got 5 cases full of cassettes still, folks.
5.
I got 5 big cases full. Yeah.
5 cases, madness. That's good though. Yeah, I need to get some of those. We were driving on where we were doing our last tour, and we only had a tape machine on the tour. So we in the van we only had a tape machine, so we had to listen to tapes, and we had I was like, fuck, we've only got like 6 tapes, so we had to listen to the same 6 tapes for fucking weeks. So I was like, I could do with some of those tapes, man, because we're running low. So
When my dad passed away, he had I think I want to say I lost count at 508 tracks, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me! 8 tracks!" But the cool part about it, the gold that I found was the Kiss Love Gun 8-track. I was like, "Hell yeah! I'll save this for later." But yeah,
8 tracks, huh?
yeah. He still had 8 tracks, and I was surprised the stuff that I found in it. I found some Foreigner. God, what else did I find? Some Johnny Cash, of course.
I always find it interesting that sort of vinyls came back into fashion, in quite a big way, but tapes are still not in fashion. They're sort of still ostracized to sort of being fucking tapes. Nobody wants anything to do with them. But vinyls are still quite a big thing, and I kind of wonder about that. So why are vinyls such a big thing, but tapes and CDs are going obsolete?
You know, I'm going to say this right now. I do still break out the tapes and listen to them, the cassette tapes. And the sound, to me, is so much warmth. It's a more warmth feeling on it. You know what I'm saying? It's not like... I mean, I'm not knocking digital or anything like that, but it just seems like there's more warmth in that cassette tape listening to it and listening to those guys play. I don't know.
You get a little bit of a higher tone in it. It's kind of really funny because you listen to it and the key is slightly higher because of the times that the tape has been worn out. And I kind of like that. I kind of like the fact that it sounds slightly worn and slightly higher and slightly faster or whatever. You know, it's something quite, it's real, isn't it? It's like, if you play something enough times, it gets worn out, you know. But with digital, of course, you don't get that. You can just put it on repeat forever and it stays the same, you know. So I think we've lost a little bit of that, but at least it's accessible, and that's cool. You know, that's really cool.
I'll tell you something funny, and this is what my dad used to do. Like when an 8-track would the tape would come out and it'd get 8 or something, and he'd have to take it out, and you see all the tape out of the spool of the 8-track. I got so tickled at him. He would wind the tape back up, and then the bad spots he'd cut out, and you'd be listening to it like we'd go fishing. He'd listen to it all the time, you know, driving to where he's going. You'd be listening to the song, and then the song just cut out and go to the next one. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
This is good stuff. Good stuff. What does TOROUS bring to the table for music that's not out there right now?
I think one of the things that we're trying to do, I guess trying is not even the right word. I think one of the things that we do is we are really being ourselves. You know, I know a lot of bands say we're unique because, you know, we're doing this thing, but we actually are just ourselves. You know, we are these guys. We really do hang out. You know, if you see a press photo of us drinking in the pub and smoking, we really are just doing it. You know, that is who we are. We are like brothers. We love what we do, and I really do experience the things that I write about. You know, the things that we're talking about in these songs. I live through that every day, and it's not easy. It's something you learn to live with, and you create art out of it. I guess all I would say is what's different about it is that people can hopefully get something from that. People can hopefully take something from it and say, you know what, I get that as well. And if they come to a show, then they'll get some entertainment out of it as well, and they'll get some real good energy that they can leave the venue with saying, you know what, yeah, I'm fired up now.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that separate us from a lot of bands. Not every band, because there are other bands that do that, but I think that's where we will categorize ourselves with other bands. It's not about necessarily genre. It's about what you put into the music. I think that's going to be the new separation. I think where genres are going to become obsolete a little bit, it's going to become how much passion do you put into what you do? How much do you really care about what you do? That will become the new genre, I think. That's where I see things going.
What first made you want to become a musician?
Well, a friend of my brother's tried to get some weed from my brother. So he tried to sell his guitar to my brother for some weed. And my brother accepted and then gave the guitar to me. So I was stuck with a fucking guitar that I didn't know how to play when I was like 13. And I was just like, all right, so I've got a fucking guitar now. All right, okay. So I sat down with it for, a few weeks and started playing around with it. And then I kind of came up with a bit of a song, a bit of a riff. And I was like, oh, that sounds all right. Went and showed it to somebody and they were like, no, that's shit. And I was like, oh, okay, never mind. Let's try that again. So I went back a few months later, came back out and they're like, yeah, that's all right. And then I just kind of went back in that process. So I was never actually taught how to play guitar or sing. Everything that I do is self-taught. And then just through trial and error, through listening to the musicians that I looked up to, and through just, through just blood, sweat and tears, I finally came up with a good formula that worked. But why I wanted to be a musician, I don't know. I just love music. I just love heavy music. It just centers me. Something about it keeps me peaceful, which is weird. Something about this heavy music and this singing really loud and screaming sometimes, and sometimes singing keeps me at center, keeps me at peace, saves me from becoming an alcoholic. So
yeah, no, it's not weird. We all have our niches that we go to keep us sane. Mine is music, what I do right now, plus gaming. Sadly, I love to game.
Yeah.
So
I haven't played games in years, but I used to play Metal Gear Solid a lot. I used to have a PlayStation, but I haven't had one in a long time. I don't have the time anymore, sadly, but I used to love playing games.
And Krystal, you're the same way, right? And plus you have your merch stuff that you do, and plus your modeling. So
yeah, I do a lot of art stuff, like all the shirts and all the clothes that I do, and like I paint too. So
yeah,
I think any way you can find to be creative, I think that's the important thing, because I think one of the things that we forget to do as creative people, and it doesn't matter if you're a musician or an artist or a writer or whatever, I think it's all about doing it for yourself first and foremost. How people receive it is how they'll receive it, but you've got to just do it for yourself because you need to do it. You need to get this thing out. And I think there's so many different ways to do that, and I think as many ways as we can do that, the better.
Yeah, Krystal does some cool stuff with these shirts. I mean, she cuts them up, but it makes them look, 1,000 times better. It's just weird.
I'll send you some shirts, Krystal. Yeah, we've got loads of TOROUS shirts. I'll send you some. You can cut them up for us. That'd be great. Yeah.
Hell yes, I'll send you my address.
Perfect. We'll sort that out. That's not a problem.
Already making connections for folks. Man, is there any show or moment that stands out to you more than any that you can recall being part of for TOROUS that you couldn't believe, like, wow, I can't believe we're actually doing this?
I'd say that a couple of ones. We played Hammerfest, which is quite a big metal festival here.
Hell yeah.
About a month ago, or about 6 weeks ago, something like that. And that was really fucking cool, man, because, we opened sort of the stage for this quite a big festival, and it had sort of Napalm Death and Napalm Death are actually from Birmingham here, like a lot of the other legends are as well. But, so we sort of had Napalm Death, Ailstorm, and some really cool bands. And we sort of opened the festival, and we had a really good turnout. We had really good press reviews, and just the general experience was really cool. People following us to the merch tents for autographs and stuff. It was just quite a cool experience. And then, of course, the O2 Academy album launch show that we did a couple of weeks ago, that was quite a unique experience in our hometown to experience opening that venue 2 years ago as a new band, where we played to sort of 12 people and then to be playing to sort of 100 to 200 and plus people or whatever. It's a cool evolution to see that. So I think those are the two shows this year, and probably since we've started that, I can really grip to and see the progression. It's really cool to see that.
Folks, we have somebody that's on the show right now from overseas. I'm going to ask him this question because I want you guys to realize festivals overseas compared to festivals over here. Mark, when Hammerfest was going on, does the whole town shut down? Because I know some of these folks that put on these shows, especially in these towns, it's like a big holiday, and they shut everything down because they get so much revenue coming in. And plus, I've heard, too, that they just shut down just because of a holiday. They want to make this as a holiday and a family thing for everybody. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, this particular festival especially because it's in Wales. So I live in England. Britain is made up of Scotland, England, and Wales. And Hammerfest is in Wales, so it's a very small place, and it's by the coast, it's by the ocean, it's on the beach. So it's very much holiday-like. It's very much festival-like. And yeah, there's a lot of community support for it. There's a lot of it helps the local economy, it helps the bands, and of course, obviously, you get a lot of people that get to go there to experience a really cool weekend. So it's just generally beneficial for everybody. But yeah, I'd say even with the bigger festivals, with Download and Reading and Leeds and stuff like that, it's the same sort of thing, which is you're always going to get that to be a proper event. It's something that people look forward to for the whole year. I think that maybe the difference is, I don't know, I've not been to America, but I think one of the differences here is people don't take those for granted. So people look forward to Download and look forward to Glastonbury and look forward to the Reading and Leeds for the whole year, you know, and it is like a proper event, you know, and that's cool because people really support that.
They're starting to over here a lot more. I know me and Krystal, we go to these festivals and stuff over here. It seems like they're starting to. Wouldn't you say, Krystal? Or kind of?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we're starting to, and it's a damn shame that it took this long for people to realize over here, like, oh wow, yeah, this could be an every year thing. You know,
it's real.
At the same time, over here, there are some festivals where the locals will straight up complain and try to get them shut down for the following years because they just are so upset about the noise and stuff. But it's like they're pulling in millions of dollars for that city.
Yep.
Like,
sure.
just deal with it, dude. Go rock out.
Yeah.
I've noticed that a boost for the economy, it only seems cool when it's not a long-haired dude with tattoos doing it.
Exactly.
Have you noticed that?
Right.
So,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so it's like, no, you've got long hair, you got tattoos, you're playing a rock band. No, that's not very cool. Yeah, you're not helping us at all. It's like, oh, actually, mate, you know, I'm fucking bringing in, you know, £1 million per year into this city. No. But, you know, look at you. You got long hair, for fuck's sake. So I think there's something about that, just the ideology behind it, you know, not to get into that, but I think that's where their biases might come from. And that includes here as well. That includes everywhere, sadly. But yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to go to the States because I also listened to bands like Godsmack, which weren't very big in England. In fact, they weren't known at all. And I always known that in the States they were quite big. Is that right?
Yeah,
they're quite well known in America.
Oh yeah, Godsmack's well known. Yeah.
Yeah, and here like they'd be lucky if they played to 1,500 people in a venue. And I always thought, fuck, I'd really love to go to a festival in America to see these sorts of bands. You know, so I guess the grass is always greener, right?
See, this is the reason why David Hasselhoff was so big over in Germany.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're quite fortunate here that we're like America. We've got all these great bands, right? You know, we've got everything from Sabbath to Priest to Pink Floyd to not even including the Beatles, whatever. But, you know, both our countries have got all this great music that I think we take it for granted.
You know, I'm just going to say it. I mean, London, England, and overseas, you guys are the forefathers of fucking metal music, man. They're hands down. Well,
I'm in Birmingham. This is the home of heavy metal right here. You know, Black Sabbath started here in 1970, you know, so fucking 1969, I think. But yeah, so we're in the home of heavy metal, and we're really proud of that, and we're proud to be carrying that torch forth in our own city, you know, and that's the really cool part about it. We got a mention actually at the Home of Heavy Metal convention that was fronted by Sabbath when they did their last show, and we actually got a mention at that convention, which was really cool, you know. So we want to drive that forward. We're very proud of the people that have come from this city, and we want to keep driving that forward.
There's a band that's overseas right now too I like, called Planet of Zeus. I think they are a phenomenal band.
Where are they from? I don't think I've heard the name before, but
I can't recall right off the top of my head right now, but they are from overseas.
Greece, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
But they're like sludgy Sabbath style metal. You know, they're
cool.
They're good, man. If you get a chance, check them out, Mark. You may dig them, dude.
Sounds awesome, man. Yeah, definitely. I'm always looking out for good music. It's the thing. I go out to a lot of shows. A lot of the bands that we play with, and even bands that support us, will turn their nose up at other bands. And I'm like, why are you doing that? You know, you're a support band. And when we were a support band, we made an effort to go out to watch other bands to, you know, support the scene. And we still do that now. You know, we still go out to see bands where we can and just be a part of it, you know, see bands, you know, support the band. Everybody has been in that boat. No band started famous. No band started rich, you know. Everybody needs that leg up.
Yeah.
So I think, I'm always open for that. I'm always looking for new bands, so I'll definitely check that out.
Krystal saw Whiskey Dick, and that's a band me and her likes.
Whiskey Dick?
Yeah, Whiskey Dick. That's their name.
All right. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
They played at
All right.
Munchies. They played at
cool.
Munchies. That's Krystal's home away from home. And
They played at Melodies, not at Munchies.
Melodies, I'm sorry.
All right. Okay.
But they were out in the crowd watching the other bands play.
Yeah, they were awesome.
No, I noticed that at Hammerfest as well. When we played there were a lot of the bigger bands. You know, capacity I think is about 6,500, but a lot of even the bigger bands were still checking out the other bands. Some of them are friends of mine who were one of the headliners, and they were checking out the other bands, just eating their pizza, just chilling in the back of the crowd where no one could see them, watching the bands. You know, and they didn't have to do that to score points. Nobody saw them. They just did it because they wanted to just do it, and that's cool, man. That's what makes metal, right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's the ultimate respect for musicians. You know,
100%. Because none of us start successful, even where we are, where we're minorly successful. Nobody starts even there. You know, it's sort of everything takes work, everything takes support, and there's no reason why you can't be successful by not helping somebody else. You know, I think there's some weird mentality shift there where musicians think, well, if I help this band, I'm not going to get any further.
Right.
Well, you'll still get further if you're fucking good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah.
you can help that band and still do what you're doing. And as long as you're good, you'll still do what you need to do. And I think that's an issue, you know?
I agree. 1,000 times agree with you on that one.
If you could play a show one night with any band or musician, dead or alive, ever, who would you choose?
Fucking hell. You know what? I'd have to play with Hendrix, just not because he's my favorite musician, because my favorite band is probably Tool, but I would really fucking just love to watch Hendrix play. You know, I wouldn't. I'd probably just go to the show just to watch him play. Just be really fucking cool. But if not, then yeah, bands that are around, I'd love to support Tool, because I just can't fucking understand how they do what they do. It makes no sense to me. And I just don't understand. It's like some weird magic, you know. So it's cool. So I'd love to play with those guys or Pink Floyd.
I'd pick their brain, and be like, "How'd you do this? How'd you play this chord? What the hell is going on? What the hell?"
Yeah, I have no I don't know at all. I mean, some of our stuff is quite complex, but just not even in the same realm, you know. So it's cool. So I'd like to play those or the original Pink Floyd back in the 70s. That'd be my choice.
Mark, I'm sure you guys get this, but I'll ask anyway if you guys do or don't. What's it mean to you when you receive an email from a fan, or prior to the shows or after the shows, they come and tell you that your music has pulled them through a bad experience, it's gave them to overcome obstacles, or it's just made them to relax and escape the everyday bullshit that we go through? What's that mean to you guys when you do receive that?
Well, it means a lot because it's what it does for us. You know, so our music and other music, because we're fans of music as much as anybody, it pulls us through that stuff. You know, the reason that I write the music that I write is because it pulls me through that drudginous system that we all live in. So I think I really relate to it, and I really appreciate that I relate to it, and I really appreciate that they've been honest. You know, it's really nice. And all I can do is try to be better to make sure that I'm living up to that expectation. You know, we can never be too complacent to think that we're good enough to receive that, because nobody is good enough to receive that. You have to work for it.
Folks, I just have to say Mindfield is out right now. I'm not saying this just because he's on the show. I'm not like that. You guys know me that by now. Pick this album up. Stream it if you want to listen to it, just to see if you like it before you spend the money. But trust me, it is worth every cent on this album. Every song is good. There's no bad song on it. I can't give this album enough great reviews. Mark, how can folks stay in touch with you guys, buy some merchandise, tour dates, things like that? How can they do that?
Well, the best way is for them to jump on the website, which is www.torous.co.uk, or just jump on Facebook. You know, we're on Facebook all the time. I'm on my personal Facebook all the time. So it's best that they just jump on Facebook, jump on the website, and catch us there, man. And we love to interact with everybody, so we encourage that people find us and speak to us. And thank you so much, John, for obviously having us on.
Hey, no problem,
Appreciate that.
man.
And Krystal, of course.
Thank you as well. Thank you for reaching out to me and getting this rolling.
Not a problem. That's the good thing about being on Facebook, is you just see really good stuff every now and then. You know, like every 30th post.
Yeah.
So,
but before I let you go, good sir, would you care to do a promo for the show?
Sure. This is Marc Malone from TOROUS, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great music coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and Uber City Radio. From my lovely co-host,
Krystal.
we will see you guys next week. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, man. Take care.